Shaw viewers, I'm Sharon Pete, and I am fortunate enough to be the director of $1 Million Quartet being put on at the Yates by New West Theatre. And I have with me here today Kevin and Scott, two of the fabulous performers that are part of the New West family and part of $1 Million Quartet. So, Kevin, tell me, where are you from?
I'm from Calgary, Alberta originally, but now I live in Toronto.
And who do you play in the show?
I play Carl Perkins.
What can you tell us about Carl Perkins? I think some people don't know him all that well.
Right, you might not know him, but he did write Blue Suede Shoes, which Elvis made famous. But yeah, he was a great guitar player.
Yes, and we're really fortunate that Kevin was able to come and join us for this production. And cast as Carl Perkins' brother, Jay, is our own loved Scott Maisie. So, Scott, what can you say about Jay?
He's the rhythm guitar player, stands behind his brother, and just keeps the band rocking.
Okay, great. So I'm on the fence. I don't know, should I go, shouldn't I go? What can you say to people out there about this show that's, gonna sell them on it?
It has everything. I mean, it has great music, obviously, but it also has a lot of heart and character and drama, which is kind of glues it together.
You can't go wrong with these four artists and their music. It just captures the 50s and that sound.
Each and every one of those gentlemen are stars, iconic stars. So, $1 Million Quartet, it's the true story of a night in 1956 where Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Elvis Presley got together with Sam Phillips, the founder of Sun Records, to make a night to remember. And we're doing the same down at the Yates. So, come on down.
Cooper. I'm the apprentice coordinator with Local 725.
And I'm Corey Jalka. I am the trainer for the 10 weeks that the kids are in this program.
So to summarize what has happened in the last 10 weeks, we've done first off safety training, that's the most important with us, and then we got into some welding fabrication. What else?
We did obviously some structural steel, put up a building with them. We did the rebar section with them, so that's 3 weeks with that. Just getting them to use their hands and kind of learn how to build everything.
With the rebar, we did a wind simulation of a wind turbine, the rebar underneath what's actually underneath the wind turbine. And of course, safety throughout is important, and also we're able to get them high school credits as well.
The knowledge you come out here with and the safety tickets, it's huge, it's transferable anywhere, and employers look at that on your resume and they're just amazed at what these kids come out of high school with.
They learn a lot about teamwork and a lot about the importance of showing up every day and being on time and their punctuality, which once that transfers into industry and they get out in the real world and start finding jobs or go to university, they're going to have to be on time and punctual because it won't last long otherwise. So that was one big lesson that we like to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the accountability for what you do. If you're like an employer, you're going to university, like Oakley was saying there, you got to be on time. You have to be ready to work. You got to be ready to, be able to go through your day, stay sober, and just, work hard.
If you're interested in the program, I believe you talk to your career practitioner at your school, or whoever represents you that way, and of course, career transitions is another definite avenue that will help you get it hooked up with us.
I'm Alyssa Hobbs. I'm from LCI High School, and here in the ironworking program, we've been learning how to weld and how to tie knots, and stuff like high angle rescue. We built a structure outside with a crane. The experience is amazing, like everything that we've learned, and it's all hands-on. You get to actually do it yourself and learn how to, all the little tweaks and skills, and it's just amazing, how hands-on you are, and the instructors are right there when you need them, and they're right there to answer any questions and show you kind of a different technique if you're struggling, or
it's awesome.
My name is Austin Guzzi, and I go to Emmanuel Christian High School. I learned work ethic, showing up to work on time, welding, tying rebar. I was thinking about doing structural, but I'm gonna get my apprentice for rebar first, and then get into structural and get my apprentice for that.
Gavin Fisher, I go to Victoria Park High School in Lethbridge, and I'm currently in the Ironworks training program to become an ironworker, and it's an amazing program. You learn lots in very minimal time. It's a 10-week program. Before I got into this, I wanted to be a welder. I was living up in Calgary, and then I heard about this program and heard there was welding within it, and so I took the opportunity and I absolutely love it, and I got a job welding out of it, so I got my career path all set. It's just an awesome time. You learn so much in very little time. I'd go home and tell my mom about all the stuff I learned, and she's just like, isn't it crazy how much you learn in one day? And it really is. These guys that teach us, they're amazing people, and you learn lots, and they teach you the best ways, but safety's always number one, of course.
My name is Joseph Edward. I'm from Chinook High School. We're at Ironworkers Local 725. And this program's an awesome program. It's a good way to catch up on credits. Good way to learn new skills and work with the team. I didn't really know what I was going to be doing for a long time until I found this program, and I think this might actually be a career. You love working with your hands and you actually want to find something you're passionate about. At the end of the day, if you get a good day's work in and you put it in hard work, you're going to be proud of yourself. It's an automatic confidence booster. You'll feel a lot better about yourself and come home and you'll be proud. And if you don't have that now, this is something that's possibly for you. You can go anywhere from here. You don't even have to be an iron worker. You can go and do millwright. Like they were saying, they have millwrights that were working from them last year. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can take it to. Any trade you can do.
My name is Ty McCard. I go to Winston Churchill High School. We did all the safety courses, so we got to do all of our tickets. And that's a big bonus out of this program, is getting those safety tickets. And it's been a really learning curve in my life. It's a lot different from school. I get to do a lot of hands-on stuff, which is what I like to do.
I'm Cody Marshuk. I go to Lethbridge Collegiate Institute, which is LCI. This program, the Ironwork program, Local 725, is absolutely amazing. Great people. You get all these tickets for free. It gets you job opportunities, communication skills, welding skills, all of the above, curtain walling, structural building, rebar tying. It's a great opportunity. Amazing. I love working with the people around here. So I'm very hoping to get a job with this Local 725. But you get all these tickets, which not, and it leaves you eligible for every trade out there pretty much. So that's a great opportunity, and big thanks to Local 725. I would definitely recommend going into it, and you just learn so much, and the people around here are great, and it's just a great community to be in.
So I've known Marmee for many, many years. I consider her a good friend and someone I looked up to a great deal. She was a very proud individual, would in many ways, I think, be considered a pioneer in her life. An exceptional individual. She was a strong proponent of women's rights, was a great volunteer within the community. She passed at 100 years old just after her 100th birthday in September of 2016. Really a remarkable individual.
But she was one of those people who are, you just know she's her own person. I would call her feisty.
Yes.
And she did things that very few women of her age and circumstances did in those times. So she was outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, Marmee is a person that, was born in the house that she grew up in, that she actually passed away in. She lived in that house for 100 years plus. Her parents moved to Alberta from the US for her dad to open a lumber yard. And her dad became a very successful businessman in Calgary. And during that time, Marmee grew up as an only child who was treated to some amazing experiences on the family ranch in downtown Calgary, but of course grew up to love the arts and be committed to the arts.
There's no question that she loved both two-dimensional and three-dimensional art. She thought of it as a tool in terms of education. She thought of it as not only a collector, but and its appreciation. Never really thought, or did she speak about it from a value standpoint. She loved things beautiful. She loved landscape, especially Western Canada landscape and Ontario landscape. She loved First Nations, Aboriginal people. She had extraordinary collections of both primitive Inuit art, some African art, some exceptional West Coast art.
Marmee really stood out and was unusual in that she was so genuinely interested in Indigenous people and Indigenous artists, that she really connected with Inuit artists and connected also with artists on the Northwest Coast. When I started here 17 years ago, I remember quite early on attending some kind of donor event and getting to meet Marmee for the first time, and that I was just absolutely blown away. I mean, at the time she was in her 80s, and she was just such an interesting person. I mean, I really enjoyed getting to spend an evening and talking to her. She was just such a passionate and incredibly well-informed art collector. She spent a great deal of time with A.Y. Jackson, who's one of the members of the Group of Seven, and so that she could actually talk firsthand about artists who I only know from seeing their work or from reading about them in books.
I don't think that Marmee ever saw herself as a collector, but I think what she really saw herself as was a steward, someone who would hold that art, care for it, share it at the appropriate time so that it had the benefit for generations in the future from an educational and a research standpoint and for the enjoyment of the general public.
Part of the process with this gift, the university will rename the main gallery space. It will be renamed for Marmee, so it'll be the Dr. Margaret Marmee Perkins Hess Art Gallery. And that'll be a really important way to honor the legacy of this extraordinary gift.
Well, I have to say I'm just so very excited that the gallery will be named after Marmee Hess. Marmee is such a significant figure in Calgary and in Alberta and beyond. And her commitment to public education, her commitment to art and culture, but also her commitment to community are the foundations that this university is built on. To have the art gallery named after her really brings those important concepts together. And I think over time, as people get to know Marmee through the naming, people will come to understand what a tremendous impact she had, not only on the University of Lethbridge, of course, but also on Alberta and on culture in Canada.
To the store, eat your greens and do your chores. Go outside and explore, it's good for you. Walk yourself place to place, be kind to every race. Give the earth her praise. It's good for you, it's good for you. Plant your seeds in the soil, spend some time in the peace tent. It's good for you. It's good for you. 1, 2, 3. It's good for you. It's good for you indeed. It's good for you. Have fun.
The gift of art from Marmee, there is over 1,000 works of art coming to the University of Lethbridge. It's incredibly diverse. The bulk of the work is Canadian, so Canadians of European heritage, but at least 400 of the works are by Indigenous artists. We have an exceptionally high commitment to research and also to public access and public programming. And so our collection is very much integrated with student learning and with research and scholarship.
She was a very, very private individual. Very few people saw her art throughout her life, but one of the things that she was very, very clear about at the end of her life was that all of this art be on display and enjoyed to be used for research and education and the enjoyment of the general public.
I think Marmee must have had confidence in the University of Lethbridge art collection, in the administrators of the collection, to decide that this is where she was going to leave much of her work that she had collected.
Well, I think there's a lot of value in having the collection here because it's another tool for the university to have to communicate and contribute to the community. The gift being here in Lethbridge, it allows other people to look at the best.
What stood out about the collection, the first thing, of course, is just the sheer volume of items that she had collected over the years. It's a wonderful thing that the collection is staying here in Alberta and going to the university collection. An outstanding collection to begin with, and this is a great addition to it. The university should be proud of the collection that they received.
One of the things that's really exciting about this collection coming to the University of Lethbridge is how it will give our students a chance to engage with the works. This collection is really going to change our students' knowledge. It will allow our students to learn about Canadian art. It will allow scholars to learn about artists that maybe have been under-recognized. There are Tom Thompsons and Emily Carrs in the gift, but there are also works that maybe many of us aren't as familiar with. It will allow us to do new research that will improve the reputation of some of these lesser-known artists.
This gift is really exciting for students at the university because it has such a range of artworks. We get to, as students, interact directly with this art.
It will make this a major addition to be able to put on the exhibitions and provide the access to these works, to be able to, to work on their care, but also the research around them as we move forward, and their ability that they'll have to support both teaching and research here at the University of Lethbridge. I'm just incredibly honored that this extraordinary art collection is coming to the University of Lethbridge. It's an honor that we've been entrusted with the care of these important works of art. And they're important certainly for people who live in Alberta, but important for all Canadians as well.
Funny story. It was my handle or username handle that I picked when I was 12 years old and logging on to Neopets for the first time. And it's kind of stayed my thing ever since. I've always enjoyed doing it. I've drawn a lot when I was a kid, and I always was the person that my classmates would go to when we had an art assignment, and they said, "Hey, can you draw a dog for me? Can you draw a cat for me? Can you draw this for me?" And they would always come to me for it, like all throughout grade school. Yeah, I just always liked to draw. I would always draw in my notes, and like all the margins were always full of doodles, and I loved everything creative. I loved animation and cartoons, and I really liked like the idea of painting, and I tried watercolor. I wasn't very good at it. It's very difficult. Yeah, and then after I learned there's an art program, you can actually like take classes to learn how to be like better at art, I guess. I don't know. That's then I came to the art program at the university, and I have really enjoyed doing all the classes and learning. I started it as my first webcomic, thanks to Eric and his Slaughterhouse Slew comic, and he actually kind of pushed me to start doing it because I didn't have a webcomic, and I always talked about wanting to do one, and so I figured like doing a little journal comic would kind of be the way to go, and so I started with that, and I don't update it as much anymore because I've got some other work and comics going, but I still do occasionally. I actually updated it maybe 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I just kind of started like it's mostly a journal comic. It's about like funny stuff that happens in my life or whatever, right? And I happen to live in Lethbridge, and so it's the Windy City, and so I called it the Windy City. Misty Waters is it's a fantasy narrative kind of comic, and it's unlike Windy City, it's like full color, and Windy City is just black and white because it's easier. Yeah, it's I've wanted to do a webcomic that is a narrative and a full story with like characters and that kind of stuff, and so that's kind of been my pet project, I guess. And I try to update it once a month every Monday. And so that takes a lot of time, especially with a full color comic. And yeah, it's about these two pirate girls, Zoe and Olivia, and they kind of live in this seafaring area called the Venian Sea, and there's like there's like magic and stuff, and there's like a mysterious island kind of out on the horizon that no one can really approach, and it's just kind of like, what's there, what's going on, you know, and there's some magic shenanigans, I guess, and pirate shenanigans in general.
How does drinking water make its journey to your home in Lethbridge?
This video will help to answer this question. Where does the water from our tap come from? Lethbridge is the largest city located within the Old Man watershed. The Old Man River is our main source of water. The water from the Old Man River enters the water treatment plant and goes through a series of processes including screening, coagulation, clarification, filtration, UV disinfection, and is then distributed to over 100,000 customers. Lethbridge, Coaldale, Colehurst, Picture Butte, and hamlets and acreages within the Lethbridge County.
The Lethbridge Water Treatment Plant is located in the Old Man River Valley and treats an average 50 megaliters of water each day.
The water treatment plant ensures the water goes through these processes to eliminate any harmful bacteria or materials in the river water.
Once it leaves the water treatment plant, it is healthy, clean, and safe to drink right from the tap. Let's get started so we can understand how Lethbridge water is treated and the process it takes from the Old Man River to our taps.
The water begins its journey into the water treatment plant from the Old Man River, passing through screens, removing larger items from the water, before continuing on to the treatment process.
After screening, low-lift pumps push the water into the water treatment plant.
And then the water continues its journey through mixers, allowing for coagulation to occur. Coagulation is the addition of approved water treatment chemicals to to convert microscopic particles and other contaminants into larger and heavier particles.
The water continues on and enters the clarifiers, which are settling tanks that use sedimentation, a process removing the majority of the larger particles by settling them in the tanks.
Carbon is added during the clarification process to control taste, odor, and color.
Clear water is drawn off the top of the clarifiers, where it then has chlorine added after the sedimentation process.
Chlorine disinfects the water so that it is safe for drinking.
Chlorine destroys microorganisms such as bacteria and viruses in the water, which can pose a threat to public health.
It is added within limits specified by the Alberta environment to ensure that it is safe for human consumption.
The settled water from the clarification enters the filtration process. This removes most of the remaining particles to the point where it is too small to see, using fine sand and anthracite.
In this process, the clear water filters through the anthracite and sand, as shown here. The filters have varying composition and pore sizes in order to help remove unwanted items in the water. The filter can be run for up to 100 hours before being washed. Particles collected in the filter are removed with a combination of air and water. Measurements are taken to ensure that all particles meet regulations and guidelines set by Alberta Environment. The water enters the ultraviolet or UV disinfection process to protect public health from disease-causing organisms that can be found in the water.
Before leaving the water treatment plant, the chlorine in the water is combined with ammonia to form chloramine. This reduces the formation of disinfection byproducts and ensures a long-lasting protection against bacteria and other organisms on its journey to your tap.
Tests are performed throughout the process to ensure that the drinking water you receive in your homes and businesses is safe and reliable. The water is then pumped to 6 storage reservoirs through high-lift pumps. There are 2 storage reservoirs located in the north, 2 located in the south, and 2 located in the west of Lethbridge.
Water is then pumped again into the distribution system of the underground pipes and sent off to homes and businesses.
This is the journey of Lethbridge tap water, from the Old Man River through the water treatment plant to your tap.
For the past 14 years, CKXU Radio has positioned itself as Lethbridge's alternative radio station. Broadcasting at 88.3 FM, the station has a small but dedicated audience. However, the station has had challenges in reaching a wider audience with its low-powered transmitter.
125 watts is hilarious, kind of. You know, in Lethbridge it means that in certain alleyways, I don't want to get too technical, but it means that, so we have kind of a directional, the way our antenna projects, it means that a lot of spots on the west side, like we're on the west side, but a lot of spots on the west side can't hear us. If you're in an alleyway somewhere, it's kind of like line of sight. So if you can't see the tower within like a 3 or 4 kilometer radius of Lethbridge, then chances are you're not going to be able to hear CKXU. Our tower points kind of northeast, so people on the east side of the south side, as it were, can get us fairly well. People on the north side can't really. If you're in the shadow of a building and it's blocking your line of sight to the tower, chances are you won't be able to get it either. So spots in downtown even, you can't get CKXU. So our most reliable source of listening right now is online on our website.
Over time, CKXU Radio has been able to build a listenership, maintain a core of dedicated volunteers, and make improvements to the station overall. However, not everyone has been able to hear the fruits of their labor.
When CKXU first came about in 2005, when we switched over from CKUL, which meant that we also went FM, you know, I think that was initially intended to be like a transitionary kind of process. Like, our gear wasn't great, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so we bought this 125 watt transmitter that did the trick, like covered Lethbridge, and it was, you know, kind of, it was good enough for the time being.
As the city grows and more people choose to call Lethbridge and the surrounding area their home, CKXU Radio decided now was a good time to start extending their reach.
Lethbridge is definitely like coming upon that 100,000 people like population mark, right? So that means that Lethbridge is expanding west, it's expanding south, it's going north, and our signal can't keep up. So we have to make a move to increase our terrestrial strength as soon as possible.
Thanks to the generous donations from community members during the station's various fundraisers, or fund drives as they call them, CKXU was able to raise the required funds to make this project a reality.
So Fund Drive has been a very crucial element to this signal increase project, and it's been really great to be able to, like, you know, rally the troops and our supporters in, you know, in favor of this project. You know, everybody wants to have CKXU like on their journey to Fort Macleod. You know, they want to be able to listen to CKXU outside of Claire's home. Like, that's really important. So getting behind this project for people, I think, has been really, you know, easy, right?
CKXU now has the approval from the CRTC to go ahead with the Signal Increase project, which will involve the construction of a new tower, installation of related equipment, and an official launch later this year. To stay updated on the activities of CKXU Radio and the Signal Increase project, visit ckxu.com. For the community producers, I'm Ryan Craddock.
Jill, I'm really excited that you asked me to be part of this One District, One Book project. It's so exciting. You and I have worked together for almost 30 years on Children's Choice Awards, and so to go to this next project, it's really fun to be part of that.
I'm thrilled you're on board. This is a great project for you to be involved in, especially because you come at it from a different perspective as a librarian. And with your background, working at Children's Library and working at a middle school, now working at a high school, you really bring the perspective of all those ages and those kids that you've worked with and your expertise in this field. So I'm so excited you're coming on board.
Well, for me, it's the magic of, it's 32 years since I started working as a librarian, and I still haven't got the words for what the magic of putting kids and books and families and students and teachers and administrators all together in the same pot, and you know, what is that magic? I still don't know.
I know, it's phenomenal though, because the connections that are made, the conversations that happen, the engaging between adults and kids alike, and parents and siblings, talking about books and characters and the things that I have learned and kids have learned about from lessons from books. Who would have known, huh?
And I think this One District thing is going to be even bigger than One District. I think it's Lethbridge. I think virtually everyone in Lethbridge will have some connection to this project. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, neighbors.
We hope so. We want it to just ripple out throughout the whole community. And
that becomes a story in itself.
Yeah. And Lethbridge is the perfect size to do something like this.
And it will be the first time ever in North America that a whole district from kindergarten through to grade 12 would be part of it.
Makes it extra special.
Yeah.
You know, the year that Dr. Proby's school partnered with Nicholas Sharon and with Mike Mountain Horse School, and we did 3 schools, 1 book. That's when I really understood how this project could be in the district, because just what happened on the west side, how it rippled out into the community, into the hockey rinks, into the grocery stores, into the doctor's offices, and everybody was talking about the characters from The One and Only Ivan like they were real, and it was just amazing to see those connections happening. So if it can happen like that on the west side with 3 schools, can you just imagine what can happen with our whole district doing 1 book together?
Well, it's the family that we want to celebrate, reading in the family, and this makes us one great big family.
Yeah, it's really well put.
It makes me think of a quote by Mem Fox, which when I say to a parent, read to your child, I don't want it to sound like medicine. I want it to sound like chocolate.
I love Mum Fox for saying things like that. That's exactly it.
So let's go.
Bring on the chocolate.
World-renowned architect Arthur Erickson was hired to design the University Hall building at the University of Lethbridge. He would change the landscape of the west side of the city forever. While Erickson may have been the visionary of the building, one man who worked alongside him had arguably an even bigger influence on the way we see campus today. An engineer from New Zealand, Bob Bourton, came to Canada in the late 60s to work in what was a booming construction age. First working in Vancouver, Bob was eventually hired by Erickson as the structural engineer on the University Hall project.
Arthur looked out and sort of said, I have this vision that building will be flowing through the coulees. The original scheme of the university, and particularly seen from the other side of the river, it's a bit of an icon for Lethbridge. And, and he's created that, and it's like the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and it's a signature part of the city.
In what was intended to be a 2-year stay, turned into several more years, with Bob and his wife making a home and raising a family in the city before eventually returning to New Zealand. Recently back in town visiting family, Bob was invited back to campus to see how much has changed and to tour the new hub for innovation and discovery, the Destination Project. While here, Bob sat down with University archivist Mike Perry to chat about what it was like working with Erickson and to find out just how many projects Bob has been the structural mind behind on campus.
Yes, in fact, when I came over here, we had only supervising the construction of the University Hall only took about half my time, so the other half I worked with George Watson of Robbins Mitchell Watson at that time, and designing all the structure for the phys ed building, which was the gymnasium and the 3-story annex building alongside it.
Oh, the aperture.
Aperture? Yeah.
Did you do that?
I did. I
Okay.
designed that. I donated my engineering time for that.
Did you design that?
No, Arthur Erickson designed the form of what he wanted. The sort of like the 2 children's building blocks.
Yeah.
And then I designed all the reinforcing and the foundations for that.
Okay.
We started work on the Arts Centre.
Oh, in 1980.
1980 was
Right,
1980 would have been, sorry, yes.
Right, so there's the Centre for Performing Arts. Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was heavily involved in all that.
Okay. He did that too.
George Watson was the architect of it.
Right. So you helped him right from the beginning.
Yeah, and particularly I had a particular interest in theatre. My wife and I were involved in musical theatre and theatre here in Lethbridge.
Oh, were you? Okay.
So a lot of anything to do with the performing arts spaces, I was probably more heavily involved than a structural engineer would normally be. I guess a little bit later we did the Max Bell Aquatic Centre.
Right.
To get all the architectural design and the structural design of that.
So overall, you were involved in this place right from 69 till
86.
Till 86. A lot of years. That's 17 years.
I would almost say that there's probably not a piece of concrete poured on this campus during that period that I didn't have some responsibility for.
The Lethbridge Hurricanes are hoping to do something no community-run junior hockey team in the CHL has done in over 40 years, host the Memorial Cup. The Canes made those intentions known a few weeks ago that the club plans to bid for the 2020 tournament. It's a big deal for this hockey team, which only a few years ago was struggling to make ends meet. Since then, though, the entire organization has completely turned around, and officials believe it's no better time than now to make a run to host.
Well, you know, we sat back and we took a look at our whole organization as a whole and where we've come from in the last 4 or 5 years, and we sat back and we thought, why not Lethbridge? Like, it's a great opportunity. We think the city's ready. We had a number of issues in the past when we did a bid process in the past and we weren't successful. I think that the city has addressed those needs, and I think the city is ready to host a major event of this sort.
The Hurricanes will be up against the likes of Kelowna, Kamloops, and Victoria when it comes to bidding for this Memorial Cup. The last time a community-run team hosted this event was in Kitchener, Ontario, way back in 1975. Terry Hausman feels it's time an organization like the Hurricanes has a chance to prove itself on a major stage like this.
Well, I think when we looked at it as well and we thought, you know, all the private ownership out there that are putting their bid processes in, we look at this as we're Lethbridge's team. We are the community, we're Southern Alberta's team, and we thought, you know, this is a great event to bring for a community of our size, and I think it works all the way around. It's we can get the community invested in what we're doing, and we look forward to making that happen for them.
Now, a big factor in all of this, of course, is money. Recent host teams have guaranteed big dollars at the end of the tournament. The Hurricanes, though, are in the process right now of crunching numbers and are coming up with an overall game plan.
So we passed stage 2, which was the evaluation of the building, and if we could potentially host it. Now we've got to get our depth chart together, so the hockey operation evaluation, and we'll have that submitted by August 2nd, and I think we'll hear back by August 15th if we can move on to the next stage. From there we move into September, where we'll have to have our business plan ready to go in early September. They'll let us know around midway through that month where they're ready to go, and then we go to the Board of Governors meeting in October 2nd and 3rd, and they'll let us know after that, after it goes to a vote.
The Lethbridge Hurricanes really have been a feel-good story the past few years, going from a team on the verge of financial ruin to a club that's been to the Eastern Conference Final 2 years in a row now, and a solid, dedicated fan base. Hausman is hoping all that will work in the team's favor as well.
When we looked at the idea of bidding on it, we thought, you know, our team's going to be pretty darn good over the next few years. So we thought, you know, what a great opportunity. We might as well put our name in the hat and see what can happen. And we firmly believe that this is something that that the community will get behind. We think that we have a overwhelming success to make this happen. I think that it's a positive all the way around, and I think it's going to.
Community exists beyond our front door, and we have a natural place to create that community with the people that we live next door to. Neighborhood life happens all year, or it can happen all year. We can discover that neighborhood life all year round, whether it be summer, fall, winter, spring. There are plenty of activities we can do. Being in Canada, we're very good at creating opportunities to do activities in any weather. Community exists for everybody. So we're at that moment now where we just need to re-invite people back into this space. So if you're at a neighborhood association, those associations need to invite people into their group, invite them into the conversations. If you're hosting a block party, go out, go door to door to your neighbors, invite them to that block party.
Our organization started as a small number of neighbors who got together, who organized as a collective to have a neighborhood or community garage sale. And it may have only been 5 neighbors, and they lived within maybe 2 or 3 blocks of one another. And so they did this together probably because they saw that there was benefit to do it as a group. What I see is human energy, I see vibrancy, I see life. I see it on our sidewalks, residential sidewalks. I see it on our boulevards. I see it on our streets. But then even more so, I see it in our alleys. And so I've always been in awe of this otherwise quiet neighborhood having this level of energy to it. And so that was very attractive, and that was a personal reward for me. But then when I started to take on the garage sale program, I realized that the garage sales, in addition to the vibrancy and energy, also was a vehicle for creating connection between neighbors. It was something that was relevant. As a neighborhood organization or community, it's a way of tying people together. It's a way of stringing thread through people, so that all of a sudden you have a way to communicate with people, so that you can share with them, they can share back, and there's some benefit. And then that whole program can grow to be something even bigger. Connecting neighbors together is an extremely important thing. Number one, I think it creates resiliency. So as much as neighbors know one another as people, that they know one another's names, that they have relationships with one another, I think that when there are pressures and problems, and I say, you know, we can develop peeves about one another and how we live, that those things become much, much less when we have a relationship with one another, when we have developed a respect with one another.
My name is Jenny, and I'm from Colombia originally. I am an entrepreneur, and I have been in Lethbridge for 7 years.
My name is Omar, and I am from Colombia as well. And we live in the Uplands neighborhood for 7 years already.
It's a great city. It's medium-sized and provide all the needs for young families. So we have a university, a college, we have supermarkets, and we know that it's growing. We see new neighborhoods and new stores coming, big brands coming to the city. Lethbridge is a great city to raise families, and if you don't have a family yet, well, it's also opportunity to be a student or be an entrepreneur. Any opportunities, Lethbridge is very rich in opportunities.
We also tend to be a very welcoming and inclusive community. We have had our challenges, as many communities have, but we've also experienced many opportunities where people have recognized that it's time to come together, a time to connect with each other. And that experience doesn't have to be in the wake of issues, and it doesn't have to be in the wake of a disaster. It can be now, it can be tomorrow, it can be every day. And that's the beautiful thing about living in a neighborhood, is we can experience community anytime. We can rely on each other anytime we need another person if we build that into our lives. We need that personal connection. We need that ability to reach out and to talk to someone. So go to their door, invite them to come and celebrate with you, whatever the opportunity is. So right now I want to invite Lethbridge, I want to invite everybody to discover their community and their neighborhoods.
G'day, I'm Warrant Officer Glenn Miller, retired, and I'm here standing with Major Nick Barber, the commanding officer of the 20th Independent Field Battery at the Lethbridge Mountain View Cemetery. We just finished a rededication of the Immortal Flame, and that was done 51 years ago on December 27th, 1966. So Major Barber, can you tell me, new to the city and as the commanding officer, what this ceremony meant to you today?
Well, again, it is much like the change of command. It was excellent seeing the support from the community and how much the rich military history here means to the people of this community. Again, having a reserve unit here in the city of Lethbridge allows young people in the community, to earn some money to go towards their school, but also to help give back to both the city and the nation as a whole. We currently have soldiers deployed fighting the fires in BC, and that's just one example right now of these young people giving back.
And I understand that's a long history in the last 20 years with the capacity to send troops to the United Nations or Afghanistan over the decade to continue that capacity building and generation.
Absolutely. I served in Afghanistan in 2010. By that point, many of the regular force soldiers had been on multiple rotations overseas, and I know my rotation was over 25% made up of reservists. So that's a huge impact when you have a battle group, a contingent of over 3,000 soldiers in a foreign country doing great things.
Thank you. Well, I wish you continued success here in Lethbridge in generating troops for the future and now as well, but also in recruiting and bringing your numbers up so that you're able to do that capacity.
Thank you very much.
And now I'm joined by Bombardier Gordon of the 20th Independent Field Battery, who's a reservist. So Bombardier Gordon, can you tell me what motivated you to join the local reserves?
Growing up, I heard stories about my grandfather in World War II. He passed away when I was a child, but that gave me the confidence to actually join the forces. But the reserve was kind of the stepping stone for myself.
And how long have you been as a career now in the reserves?
I've been in the reserves for just over 4 years now.
And we were talking earlier, you've now completed your junior leadership training. What's on your horizon for your career?
The next part of my career is to actually switch trades into more of a finance position. And hopefully that's another stepping stone to further my career in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Well, thank you for your service. And are you currently going to school as well?
I'm not currently in school, actually.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your service here and in the future. From the Lethbridge Mountain View Cemetery, I'm Warrant Officer Retired Glenn Miller.
Hi, I'm Karina Barker from Mike Mountain Horse Elementary School. I teach grade 3 here, and we've just been launching our project this morning, looking at Lethbridge Public Forum. The kids have had to work for the last 2.5 months on designing and planning their own structures for what they feel would improve the quality of life in Lethbridge. They've had to do research projects for them to discover what cities have in Canada compared to Lethbridge, as well as around the world. The kids have been engaged in having to draw their blueprints and constructing 3D models of their project. They had to research constraints that might have an impact on their ability to build their project and what actually is needed in Lethbridge to improve the quality of life in our city. The kids have had to learn many things through this process. They've had to learn how to do survey projects and graphing in order to determine what other people have for opinions on what they liked to see in Lethbridge. They had to work on their blueprints, which required them to use some measurement tools and learning about perimeters so that they actually had to make the blueprint realistic to what an actual architectural blueprint would look like. They studied the constraints that people face when they're building structures. They had to look at constraints such as environmental constraints. They had to look at financial constraints, spacing constraints, time constraints, things related to weather, for what they would like to build, whether they were going to build something that was an indoor or an outdoor structure. They've also had to learn about different ways to join their models. They had to use their knowledge of joining different materials to build their actual model and make it a 3D structure that was able to represent their blueprint accurately. It's a project that the kids were highly engaged in. All kids were super involved in the project. They asked to do it on a daily basis. They loved to be hands-on. They loved to be learning through actually having to construct something that meant something to what they wanted to see in Lethbridge. And they learned about how to improve the quality of life in our area through what we have and through what we might need to see in Lethbridge in the future.
Having a TP transfer ceremony. We had purchased a TP last year and decided that we wanted to have our school district, the FNMI department logo put on the TP. So the students, there's 12 to 14 students at Victoria Park that were given the honor to paint this TP. We've been working over the past 4 weeks to paint the logo on the TP. The design on the TP we were given by Elder Bruce Wolfchild. He gave us the design of the mountains on the bottom of the teepee, which represent the location that we're in. The top of the teepee is the sky, as well as the 7 stars on the flaps of the teepee and the Blackfoot butterfly on the back of the teepee. The teepee also has the school district logo. Everything that's been done on the teepee has been done by the students here. myself and Monty Wolfchild have been working with them, and the students, Monty has painted numerous teepees, so he's been the one that's directed them, and he's been really hands-on with the students. He's given them the tools, but told them to go and do what they've done everything by themselves. So it's been a really awesome process. About 2 weeks ago, each student that participated was gifted the rights to paint teepees. So now at 16, 17, 18 years old, they're all gifted a right to be able to go and paint teepees, which is something I don't think they thought they would ever be able to do in their lifetime. So we're having a teepee transfer ceremony today, given the rights to be able to have this teepee. Proper practice and protocol in our culture to have the teepee and utilize it. So the hope for it is that every school in the district will utilize the teepee, and we're using it as a teaching tool to be able to have those conversations and have the awareness and knowledge of what First Nations culture uses a teepee for, and everything that's incorporated into it, because it's not an easy process to do, and there's lots of different things that in the curriculum that can relate back to the teepee.
Welcome to the Future of Science at the University of Lethbridge. The Science and Academic Building is a celebration of discovery and innovation among our students and our researchers, past, present, and future. We are quickly progressing toward our fall 2019 opening date. The infrastructure for our flexible and adaptable shared research space is taking shape, augmenting our capacity for collaborative research pursuits that are transdisciplinary in nature. The interior glass walls will put science on display, enhancing our students' learning experience.
Public think that scientists and researchers and trainees are doing something that they don't understand necessarily, and they need to know what we do, and they need to know how we do it.
The exterior glasswork will form an important part of the double facade, which reduces the environmental footprint of our research and teaching activities.
I would venture to say that this is likely to be the most sustainable science building in Canada, if not in North America.
The new Makerspace and Outreach Centre will invigorate our ability to engage with the Lethbridge community and with our future learners. No one could have imagined the breadth and impact of the scientific research that would be carried on within the walls of University Hall. While staying true to the original architectural philosophy of University Hall, it also releases our scientists from the constraints on collaborative and transdisciplinary research imposed by a building that was designed in the late 1960s.
It feels more open, it feels more functional already, and there's not even the shelving and the other pieces in there yet, right? And so I think that students will get a sense of that too.
This facility is going to lead to new scientific discoveries for the benefit of humankind. It's going to increase our research capacity, our ability to attract the best and brightest graduate and undergraduate students, our ability to attract funding, to forge partnerships with industry, and to improve the regional economy. And ultimately, we're going to inspire the next generation of students as they embark upon their scientific careers. The location of the Science and Academic Building provides spectacular views of nature in Blackfoot Treaty 7 territory, as well as new sightlines on campus. It also represents a historic moment for the U of L as we finally complete the loop on campus. The facility will connect with the north end of University Hall. A grand hallway will pass 3 classrooms and lead to a vibrant atrium. Magnificent coulee views will be seen along the way. Students, staff, and faculty will be able to easily transition between the 2 buildings without going outdoors.
It will transform the campus. This is the most significant project since the Erickson building has been built.
Go to destinationproject.ca to imagine the shape of your future in Canada's newest science and academic building.